Mr. Kuzma?
Here.
Mrs. Hill?
Here.
Mr. Lovett?
Here.
Mr. Curry? Dr. Bruno?
Here. Okay, kind of lost track there, but we're good. All right, thank you very much. Mr. Lobach, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will begin tonight with reports, and we'll start with the superintendent report. Dr. Kaskowski, you're up.
All righty, well, thank you, and I'm going to ask them to learn. Ken, as usual, has done an amazing job putting together some highlights from this last, our third reopening, or our first day of the year. First week.
Lincoln students, what to say to you. It's very clear I've missed you here. When we had to say goodbye, I cried, and it broke my heart. I've dedicated every day to you. Teaching online was never quite my style, but you smiled. There on my screen I fell apart, and I thought I was so smart. You will come back to classrooms on Monday, and I will welcome you. I sure will welcome you. If I wash my hands and wear my mask, then I can welcome you. I want to welcome you right back to Lincoln School. Some Monday, all day. Welcome back to Lincoln School. Monday, all day. Oh, being back at school won't look the same. So strange, but that's okay. Your teachers, friends, and helpers, they will stay. They might just be far away. Oh, it might be bizarre to be so near, right here. But when we smile, it'll all feel right. It feels so tight. I know you won't see my smile. I know you won't see my smile. I know that I'll always smile for you. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll make a million mistakes. We'll make school feel safe and sound for you. We will see you in your rooms on Monday. You'll see us wave to you. We all will smile for you. If we wash our hands and wear our masks, then we can welcome you. We want to welcome you right back to Lincoln School. Monday all day. Welcome back to Lincoln School. Monday all day.
Thank you, Ken, for that. Poor planning on my part, that is really hard act to follow. You know, I
Well
think
done.
our teachers, I can't say that I can be any prouder of the work that they've done and all the steps that principals and teams have taken to welcome kids back and send videos and information so that kids knew exactly what was expected of them as they came back. I know Marcy was here at Hadley on the first day, and even the kids who were setting foot in the building for the first time really seemed to appreciate all of the information that was sent home and knew where to go and what to do. I think even though we're all in masks, anybody that was out and about on that first day and ever since can really say that kids smile with their eyes. And it's very clear that they enjoy being back and you know, we're doing exactly what we said we would do. Oh, sorry, and working through, you know, the challenges and the kinks that come up with this. But it was a very good first day and first week this year, and that's because of everybody's work. So thank you to everyone. Before I jump into my slides, I also want to take a moment and compliment Churchill on their diversity event that they did virtually, and the kids did a fabulous job with that. I believe it was sent out in District Digest so that everybody can enjoy it, and we will definitely put it on our website. So thank you to everybody for all of the extra steps that they took to really make some very special virtual events for kids as we're coming back together fully, and for our students who are remaining on remote. Ken, I'm going to ask you to pull up my presentation, please. So this is just an update. I can remove the draft from it because we are here. I would like to share a celebration that came to us from Glenbard West. So every year we receive a very huge data packet that tells us how our students do once they go over to high school. And internally, I think we consider this some of the most important data that we can be looking at. It's very much local data, not only of how kids do as we send them off to Glenbard, but also how they do through the years there. So for the 2020-21 school year, Hadley students outperformed all other sender school students on all of the SAT metrics, including the percentage of students who met the math benchmark, ERW, both benchmarks, and earned a 10-10 or higher on their SAT total. We had 74% versus 57% from all of the other public sender school students. We're going to share this information at a future date, some other pieces of data for the board and for the community to hear. But I just think as we give this update, it was very timely just to add that and to share how proud we are of our students as they go over to high school. So fully opened, what have we learned? There is definitely a misalignment between the guideline of 3 feet social distancing and 6 feet as the definition of a close contact. We are aggressively advocating for a change in the close contact definition as well as the length of quarantine. As recently as this afternoon, I verified with the DuPage County Health Department that their guidance is 14 days when using 6 feet of social distancing. That's important to share. Again, that's as recent as this afternoon, but we are working to find contacts and make contacts and really advocate so that they align. If it's safe to be open using 3 feet, that become the definition of close contact. And I also want to remind our families that while IDPH and DuPage County Health Department may use terms such as a guideline or a recommendation, the reality is that public school districts do not get to ignore these. There are legal and insurance-related liabilities for doing so. We cannot refuse to quarantine kids who meet the definition of a close contact, nor can we allow parents to opt out or waive this. That's not how the law works when it comes to public schools. We've received that question many times throughout the pandemic, just have parents waive that, sign away their rights to those things or those requirements. And legal counsel has answered that clearly for us on numerous occasions. We are, as a public school district, bound to take that guidance and implement it with fidelity. We are pushing to have that reconsidered, and we will continue to do so. I don't know that we will see that come to fruition this year, but we're definitely pushing on it with the hope of next year, even better if it would be soon. But again, I do want to share that I did confirm that as recently as this afternoon. So what have we learned? The magnitude of increased saliva testing and monitoring of compliance is a tremendously large task. As of today, we implemented a new process for student sample turn-in. It is now being done as part of the morning and at the arrival time for PM, pre-K and kindergarten attendance process. So teachers have a plastic drop box in their room where students drop their sample. The teachers then record it in Skyward as they do if a student forgot their lunch and needs a lunch for that day. Samples are then collected and then scanned in by the CNA. From there, the office has a very intricate and involved process that they implement to manage the accountability and parent reminder piece. I do have to say thank you to Nancy and to our nurses and our office staff at the buildings. The accountability piece, once this became mandatory, is a whole different piece of work that we weren't doing before. Before, as a voluntary process, we processed those samples as they came in, and our work was really about working with the results. This piece now requires that we cross-reference the samples that come in versus the number and names of in-person students, so that as Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday happen, we're able to send reminders saying, your student has not yet submitted their sample for this week. And so just that accountability process is very, very involved. But I think great process changes that we learned from week 1 to week 2, and we expect this to just get better and better. But it is very, very involved. And last week, just to get the new sample kits out, we were once again, reaching out for all hands on deck and anybody who could come over and spare some time along with people at CSO. It really was a group effort to get that done last week, and it was huge. So thank you to Nancy and everybody else that's helped. Fully open, again, what have we learned? This was the exclusion data as of when I did this last week. So you can see that we had 0 kids that needed to be excluded for not submitting a sample at Lincoln and Franklin, 9 at Churchill, 15 at Forest Glen, and 16 at Hadley. Families did receive reminders that a sample had not yet been turned in. Reminders were translated into Spanish. For this week, we've made improvements where we have other languages. Off the top of my head, I know we're now translating into Burmese, but other language translations are being done for those reminders as well. In addition to that, school offices, nurses, and building administration also made personal calls to families. Again, that's just a repeat of the data that was on the last slide. I think the most important thing is just knowing that we have really increased our outreach and translation supports going into week 2 based on what the data showed us for week 1. Planning for 21-22. We anticipate that 3 feet will be the guideline for next year. Nothing that I've heard in my meetings with the other county superintendents or with the health department has said anything different at this point.
If that is the case, we will certainly share that great news if and when it comes. But that being said, we will still be working with our new Director of Technology, Andrew Peterman. Andrew was around the district today. He will be joining us officially on July 1, but we will be doing some transition days. So Andrew will be in the district prior to July 1. So in addition to his transition time, just really figuring out how we're going to manage that. Andrew comes to us with experience as an Assistant Director of Technology from Indian Prairie School District 204. We look forward to the opportunity to introduce Andrew to everybody. We did a quick, well, I don't know if it was quick for him. I was with him for a little under an hour today, but Andrew did come to the district and got to meet with teams and talk with some cabinet level people. And just in that short conversation, shared some important resources that he's aware of that he could bring to District 12, District 41, sorry, blast from the past.
It's been a while.
I'm sure they want me out of their business. One priority that we will enlist Andrew in is helping us determine our technology needs for supporting students on quarantine next year, if that is still a required piece that we're living with. I really do also need to say a thank you to Mr. Hubauer and our entire tech department for stepping up and carrying us through the remainder of this year. This year has been one like no other, and they have just done a fabulous job and are continuing to do a fabulous job. On the next slide, Ken. So for next year, we are planning on maintaining a full remote learning option next year, but it will be based on specific medical criteria. We will be providing parents with information relative to that form and submitting that request for full remote. This is anticipated to be a standalone program with its own devoted staff. As mentioned, once we have Mr. Peterman on board, we will make improvements to our support for students on quarantine through the use of technology. That really will be a work in progress. And so we committed to that when we first rolled out what our full reopening model will look like, and we will get to that. We will also continue to monitor the requirements for social distancing during lunch and develop a plan for next year. The feedback that I've received from principals is that kids are enjoying the time when they're eating in other areas and sitting on towels. The principals are working through how to schedule that, so it's not always the same kids that have to stay in the room or have to eat in an alternate area, and also balance it on good weather days with who gets to go outside and enjoy lunch outside. So our principals are working through that, and we will every week. Obviously, the weather forecast plays heavily into what we can or cannot do. Dave did share, we've asked around to people who made investments in tents and things like that, and it's not nearly the solution that I think some people thought it would be. They are cold. As we know, our weather changes significantly. You have to bring kids in high winds or storms. You can't leave furniture out there unless you're going to provide security for the tent. So it requires a lot of in and out. And at least one of the districts that we've talked to has not been able to use their tents much. So just wanted to mention that in case anybody wanted to ask why we weren't doing that. We had concerns about it and didn't go that route. And I'm feeling like we made a good decision there. Next slide, Ken. So again, we're still on planning, and as a point of clarification, districts have been notified that the cost of COVID testing, including saliva testing with Safeguard, is eligible for reimbursement through the federal ESSER grant. Eric will be submitting all of that. There are 3 renditions of the federal grant. So we anticipate a good portion, if not all, of our expenses related to Safeguard will be covered or reimbursed under that grant, which is great news for districts who have done COVID testing. Can we define, I think not to engage in this conversation now, but just something for the board to start thinking about. Can we define the conditions under which we could continue to implement saliva testing and Binax, and the conditions where we would take action to discontinue COVID testing? So I think, just to have our eyes future focused for next year and monitor what is coming out from the CDC and IDPH and DuPage County, and just have a little bit longer term vision of what the status of testing will look like here and what information do we need to be able to have those conversations. So again, this was not intended to start those conversations tonight, just for us to start thinking about what we would need to have these conversations, so that if you want me to reach out to experts to bring opinions to the board for consideration, that I have an opportunity to do so. And then resurrecting the strategic plan processes. Again, this is planning for 21-22. I've been in contact with Dr. Van Clay from CEC. His words are that he is easing into retirement, and he is going to work with us to identify another consultant from CEC who can step in and assist us. They have received, according to Mark, very positive feedback on their virtual process. So we are looking at restarting our virtual process sometime this summer. One of the pieces that he mentioned is that doing it virtually just really took the scheduling issue out for people and made participation so much easier. We will invite all former participants to rejoin the meetings, including our students who are now at Glenbard West. It is my hope that we can start next year with a strategic plan in place, but we'll see what those dates look like once we have a new consultant on board. But I think it would be advantageous for us to do it right instead of doing it quickly. But it would be great if we can tackle that work over the summer. I think it all depends on schedules and availability of all the people that were involved in that process. But I just wanted to give the board an update in terms of where that is at. That is all that I have, so we can open for questions.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Well, let's see if the board has any questions for Dr. K. I'll just kind of look around. Ted, you're good? Yeah? Jess? No, you're good? Julie, how about over here? Okay, very good. Guillermo?
No, I don't have any questions, Dr. K. Thank you for the update.
Very good. And Jason?
We're good. Thanks, Melissa.
Okay, Melissa, thank you very much. All right, let's turn to the board and see what board reports we have, and go back over to this side and start with Mr. Estes.
And I don't have anything this.
What?
this meeting.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Always count on Ted having a few. All right, thank you, Ted. Jess?
Yeah, I have a couple. So I attended the Ben Franklin PTA meeting, and they have new board officers that were elected. It's teacher appreciation time and teacher gifts time, as well as they are going to do a high interest day on the 30th, which is SIP day. So pretty impressive that they're still doing the level of activities that they are doing over there. But they do have open spots on their committees for next year. So if people are looking for something to do for next year. PTA Council met as well, and they have a scholarship recipient that they will be awarding at the end of this year for a Glenbard West graduate who is pursuing an education degree, as well as a portion, I believe, is going to, I didn't take very good notes, but I think a second one is going to someone who's attending COD. And D41 Kids Foundation is planning a fall fundraiser, but details are very tentative, so I won't reveal those, but be on the lookout for that. But one really exciting program that we are launching soon is the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, thanks in part to Bob's better half, Dr. Lynn Bruno, who has organized that effort. And so birth to 5 kids will receive 1 book a month for until they're 5. And so anyone in the boundaries of our district is eligible to sign up for that and receive those books from the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. So we're super excited that we can offer that.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you. Julie Hill.
I have 2. I attended the
Forest Glen, I wrote FG and somehow couldn't come up with the name of the school. Forest Glen PTA meeting on April 20th. Similar to Ben Franklin, they elected their new officers for next year. A lot of the discussion was around the theater program and the variety show that they have usually done, except for in COVID times. Also looking for volunteers, if any parents out there are looking for a way to contribute. Their Spirit Week and their 1 week, 1 book programs were huge successes. And that's all I have for that. I also had the privilege of attending part of the Illinois PTA convention this weekend. As I told you guys a month or 2 ago, I think, our resolution that did not get picked up at the IASB did get picked up by the state PTA. It previously was adopted by Hadley right here, and then got to go to the state convention this last weekend, where they voted yes with a 94% yes rate.
Oh, congratulations.
So from here, which I'm super happy about, so from here, the PTA will meet with state legislators to try to implement this and get some energy behind this resolution in Springfield. There's currently a bill in the Illinois House and currently a bill in the Illinois Senate that just has to be sent to the other one if it gets enough energy and enough noise, then obviously to become a law to get whatever.
Julie, I'm sorry, can I interrupt? Could you just quickly remind people what the nature of
Yes.
this is?
The resolution was about, it's a gun safety, it would be a gun safety law in my ideal world, to increase the age of mandated safe child storage. So basically locked and unloaded any weapons in the house where a child 18 or under could reasonably get a hold of the weapon. So right now it only goes to 14. But what we know about school shooters and suicides, it would be way better if it went all the way to 18.
Mhm.
When then, of course, they're considered an adult and then you can no longer sort of legislate that kind of stuff. So that's the resolution. So they will work on the Springfield legislators, and then next fall, it will go to the national convention in Washington, DC. And if it would pass there, they would lobby our national our Congress people and senators. So I know that's looking really far ahead, but that is, to me, really exciting and very hopeful. And I'm super proud to be a part of this. And I thank you all for also being a part of it and agreeing to move this thing along.
Super. Well done.
And then I just attended because they had paid for me and registered me. They're like, do you want to go to any of the classes? So I also attended a trauma-informed education meeting, which reiterated a lot of the things that I've learned in other trauma-informed learning sessions. Talked about 3 kinds of levels of stress response: positive stress, tolerable stress, which is hard, but you can manage because you have a supportive adult, and toxic stress, which is hard and you can't manage because you don't have a supportive adult. And then obviously the many, many consequences of trauma, and how do we make our schools so that we can help the children who experience these. And it turns out that it's kind of most of them, unfortunately. And then she had a bunch of books that she talked about and recommended. So I'm happy to pass those along. And that's it for me. Thanks for listening.
Very good. That's a bit. That's quite a bit. Thank you, Julie. Thank you. Guillermo.
No, nothing to report. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. And Jason.
Yeah, I have a few. On April 20th, I also attended, I attended the Lincoln PTA meeting. They also elected their new officers for next year. We had some questions as to the third restart and some questions on quarantine, what have you. But that was a major portion, was electing new officers. So congratulations and thanks to those serving as Lincoln PTA officers next year. Also on April 20th, I attended the State's Inclusion Subcommittee meeting. And I'll post those minutes. I'll send it to Nancy to have them included at the board meeting. So that was a relatively short meeting, so it'll be easy just to send those minutes. And then I just want to give an update on our Rock Your Socks drive this year. As many of you know, over the last several years, I've been celebrating World Down Syndrome Day by handing out socks in the district and different community places and events. And this year we started a Rock Your Socks drive this year to collect socks for people that need them for People's Resource Center and Access World Services. And Who's Rock Your Socks? We collected over 1,400 pairs of socks for people in need. So thank you to everyone that donated socks. Thank you for district for supporting this, and I really appreciate it and look forward to growing it again next year.
Way to go. Nicely done. Thank you, Jason. A couple of things from me. I attended the CIT meeting, the Continuous Improvement Team meeting, and just wanted to highlight that they continue to work on putting together a presentation that addresses some very important lessons learned, largely positive, about using technology in instruction and remote learning. And I know that's an evolving process, and you, Melissa, I know you're part of those meetings, and there's a lot of videotape to kind of get through, and you've got nice submissions that have been pretty representative from the district. So I think this is going to be a really informative presentation when it's finished. So it was nice to hear about it unfolding and developing. I also attended the Hadley PTA, and along with a lot of other business that they could celebrate, they very joyfully discussed the 8th grade celebration. The 8th grade, I guess it isn't a graduation, it's a celebration that will be outdoors. And there was a discussion about blankets and getting them down on the ground and how this is going to work. And it might even be live streamed. So I'm not looking at Ken. I'm not sure what this is, but hopefully the weather cooperates and it sounds wonderful. So more to come, but people were really enthused to talk about this celebration there at Hadley. And then finally, there was a LEN meeting that I participated in. And just as a reminder, this is the Management Association of School Districts in DuPage that advocate on behalf of school districts in Springfield. And they summarized a number of bills that have been passed out of the House and we're moving over to the Senate. And then, of course, bills that are relevant to school districts, and then bills that did not pass out of the House and essentially died in the House and won't be moved over to the Senate. One important bill that had implications for us and any other school district was an attempt to compel a consolidation of school districts, which was universally opposed or near universally opposed, as far as I could tell from the efforts of school districts across the state. The bill would have taken away the authority of local communities to determine whether or not their school districts merge with other school districts. So the bill failed, and it failed by a large margin. There was also discussion about possibly adjusting the education based funding formula for schools and what the implications would be, largely for Tier 1 and Tier 2 districts, but it would have ramifications for districts 3 and 4. So we would be impacted. Again, that bill is still being discussed. And then 2 items that actually, I guess, are addendums to Melissa's report. Melissa noted that all of, or near all of, the COVID testing that we do with Safeguard will be reimbursed. But what I do want to underscore is that there was a lot of advocacy on the part of school districts with people in Springfield to bring this about, including our own school district, which was not silent on the issue, but in fact had a very robust voice. And so we were pleased to get that confirmation on the testing cost. And then Melissa also talked about the board eventually will have to enter into a discussion in terms of what kind of saliva testing we may or may not do with or without Binax as we get into the fall. Well, there is a bill that I believe passed out of the House that addresses metrics around COVID, along with stronger directives from IDPH, which will have real implications for what degrees of freedom school boards will have if that bill then were to pass. But it passed out of the House. I believe it passed out of the House with a wide margin. So the General Assembly is looking at the fall. And in part, that's going to impact decisions that we make because there may be more direction that's coming from Springfield. Also, the matter of the misalignment of quarantine with social distancing is a matter of discussion in the General Assembly. Again, school districts, including our own, had a very loud voice in advocating that these two rules be aligned rationally and properly. And so now that's part of the discussion that's also occurring in Springfield. So a lot of good work away from the board table by the district to advocate on behalf of the district, its kids, its staff, along with what's in the best interest of other school districts. So a very busy and active Len meeting. Okay,
Dr. Bruno, can I ask you a follow-up question about that?
do it best to answer.
Yeah, and if you don't have an answer, that's okay. So the guidelines right now are just from, I know guidelines, they're directives, right? You don't have a choice, you have to follow them. Are those currently like a law thing? Are those an Illinois state law? Or is that just from the public health department?
So IDPH has been authorized, they have been authorized, legally authorized by the General Assembly to set the rules around the quarantine space, the quarantine impacts and the social distancing. So it's coming, that's coming from IDPH.
Okay,
The law also gave IDPH the authority to defer to the county health departments the length of the quarantines. And Melissa, just correct me if I get this wrong. So our county health department is fully authorized to say what they said to Melissa. It's 14 days.
If you're open using 3 feet, it's 14 days. When we were 6, we could do a 10-day quarantine. 10 had some other criteria involved in it and ongoing symptom monitoring and things like that.
right.
But, clearly said that if you're open using 3 feet of social distancing, then the length of quarantine is 14 days.
Right.
Apparently, though, the way the county health departments have been authorized under the law, a county health department could make a different recommendation, or they could make a different decisions. And there may very well be county health departments that have agreed to have a shorter period of time for quarantine, and that may or may not be connected to 6 feet or 3 feet. But the length of the quarantine, my understanding is actually that authority has been deferred to the county health department.
Okay, so what, that I understand, that I understand. I'm trying to figure out what is possibly going to change in the General Assembly.
With testing related to, Bob, do you have the House bill number by any?
You know, I didn't. I should have. I should have gotten you.
They're going to change the law based on if you're doing testing or not? Is that what you said?
I don't think they'll be changing the law whether you're doing testing. I think they're looking at legislation regarding testing and how that would look in schools. So to put some tighter structures in place, possible requirements, whereas now there aren't any. So, we're waiting to see what comes out of that.
Okay,
But more structure and more directive regarding testing than currently exists.
oh, on the testing specifically.
Yes.
Okay. cool,
And Julie,
thanks.
I think it's also possible that the language that they're considering, instead of guidance coming from the county health departments, that there would be what are in fact directives.
Right,
That when you hit certain thresholds, certain metrics, it's not a question of you could do this, but you don't have to do it, if I'm understanding it right. But there would be stronger language and there would be more of a state approach. You hit these thresholds, this is what has to be done under law. I think that's part of the ferment of the conversation that they are having
okay.
in Springfield.
I was trying to better understand the changes that you were talking about maybe happening. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's House
Still
Bill
early.
2789.
Oh, look at Ted.
What was that, Ted?
789.
And how long did that take you to find that?
Few seconds.
You were good, Ted. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right, now we will defer to our student board reports, and Asia and Blake, you have a very interesting report to provide. So I'll defer to you and you can take it away.
Yes, for our report today, we will be discussing the results of a student questionnaire regarding the promotion of diversity in District 41. This questionnaire asked students from 6th to 8th grade how well they thought our schools promote diversity in the classroom, programming, and other school endeavors. It also provided space for students to leave any suggestions on how we can make our schools more inclusive. You can go to the next slide to see it. This is the form. We distributed the form to 177 students, and I'd like to thank Mr. Dively for taking the time to approve this questionnaire, as well as Ms. Hand and Ms. Heskin for helping us distribute the survey. If you'd like to continue this inquiry further, we could do so with a greater sampling of students, and here are the results on the next slide.
Next slide. The results by grade. Let me show the next slide. The total, as you see, the vast majority is voted pretty well, so they qualify very well. We surveyed.
Yes. Next slide. These ideas came from the students, and students reported instances of feeling singled out during diversity discussions. We should include more training to educate teachers and students and encourage more awareness and sensitivity. Additionally, students suggested that we include the LGBTQ community more in the curriculum. We should also make sure to respect people's personal pronouns. Students suggest that the curriculum includes same-sex discussions in health class. We should also provide more resources and support for LGBTQ students. They also suggested that student forums include more sexual identities beyond male and female. We had a few of our own ideas. One of our ideas was to display collections of books in the library focused on diverse groups, examples being Latino, African-American, LGBTQ, women's studies, people with special needs, etc. This would allow for students to feel more represented in our libraries and to help direct students who are interested in learning more about different groups. Another idea of ours was to include art and music from diverse groups in the fine and performing arts curriculum. The next slide will show you some more student responses.
What our district is already doing, the district is working to hire more diverse staff. We can monitor our progress by keeping track of teacher diversity and discussing it at later meetings. District 41 has a leadership team who's going through a program to become micro-credentialed in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Additionally, the district is going through their instructional resources, assessments, etc., to help eliminate racial and cultural biases in our school as much as possible.
Overall, we are moving in the right direction. However, we still need to do more to make sure all students feel welcome.
That's all.
Well, first of all, let me thank both of you for jumping into this and actually putting together a structured survey. You had to do a number of things. You had to get permission from the principal. You had to work with a couple of teachers. You had to design the survey. You got a really good number of responses for the few classes that you reached out to. And then you had to do something with the data, and you put it into a nice presentation, and you have some analysis here. So I'm very impressed and deeply appreciative of the work that you did. It's exactly what we're hoping student board members will bring to us. It's a perspective that you have, and you're connected to your classmates, and we need to hear that. So I know I got a whole bunch of questions, which I won't ask all of them tonight, maybe one or two, but let me just see if other board members have questions or comments, and you can take turns how you respond. Yeah, I'll start on this end. Julie, any questions or comments for our
I don't
student?
have any questions, but well done, and thank you for this input and feedback.
Thank you.
I would have been so nervous sitting there talking about it like this in 8th grade, so I'm impressed. Well done.
I was trying to remember when I did my first survey, what age I was,
I was gonna say Bob was 5.
and then presented it. Yeah, okay. Guillermo.
Oh, great job. I think it's terrific that you guys are taking the initiative to do this within the school. And hopefully more students will think about it and do something similar. How are you planning to, is this presentation being shared across the classrooms and maybe across the different schools? Do you know?
The survey was only shared to Hadley
Okay.
from 6th to 8th grade,
Mhm.
and we just picked 2 teachers to disperse the survey to all of their classes. One teacher spread it on to a couple additional classes in 6th and 7th grade. So
Yeah, I think it'll be great if the rest of your student body sees the presentation and the analysis and the recommendations, which actually came in from them, right? So they understand that there's some biases and there's a lot of work that can be done to work on these diversity and equality issues. So great job, congratulations.
Thank you. Jess?
No questions, but really well done. Great response rate. And I think you've put together a wonderful presentation. So thank you for taking that initiative. It was really well done. Thank you.
Ted?
Let me echo the same sentiments. I'm impressed. I didn't catch how many responses you got.
Oh, yeah. We got 177 students from Hadley.
Okay. And you said you're going to try to expand that a little bit?
Yes, we could continue this inquiry.
Okay, that'd be great.
Also, to add on to what Blake said to Mr. Guzman, we also want to talk about more diversity in school, in the classroom, and that's how we want students to become more contributive to diversity in the schools.
Terrific.
Great.
Thanks.
And anything else, Ted?
Nope.
Okay. Jason?
Yeah, no questions, but just good on you for tackling this subject. I think it's great to see that initiative of you guys. So good job, both of you. Thank you.
So just two things I wanted to just raise, and I saw them in the noteworthy ideas that you have
Yes.
at the end of the written report. Two things. One was to actually teach about what diversity is, which suggests maybe it's taken for granted.
Yes, some students aren't very aware about what diversity is, while others are extremely aware. So it's more, one student suggested having everyone be aware of it by teaching it.
There's a real range
Mhm.
how people think of the term. Yeah. Okay. And the other was the importance on educating on real life issues and stereotypes, not apparently wanting to embrace what's happening currently in their world, right? And deal with some real issues that are present in their lives, right? And is that what
Mhm.
they're suggesting?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, we're off to a good start, Dr. Keskowski, on our diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'll give you the last word here.
Okay. I'm just going to encourage you to follow up with Principal Dively. I think you're at a perfect time that we're leading into the last few weeks of the year. And if you were going to survey larger across Hadley, this would be a great time to do that, because you both will be invited to join our strategic plan work. And I have a feeling that this will be a very big topic within that work and the meetings that we have. So that would be a perfect time to be able to share the data that you collect from your next survey and some of the big themes that came out of it. So if you're interested in taking this further, I think it's perfect timing, and you'll actually be able to weave that into our strategic plan conversations.
Okay.
And we can help you if you need some help or ideas.
You understand, like
absolutely.
she just volunteered you to do a much bigger study. You following that, Dad? You should just.
Think of it more of an opportunity. But presented to
More study, more impact.
you.
Well, when you find talented people, you invite them to do more good work.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you very much. All right, we will move to public participation, and we'll begin with individuals who requested to do so via Zoom. And I believe we have one person joining us.
Okay, if you can hear me, I just wanted to take a few minutes tonight. My
Go
name
ahead.
is Kristen Kramer, and I am a former District 41 parent and the current Illinois PTA president. And over the weekend, I know Julie Hill has already brought this up, but I just wanted to say thank you to Julie for being a part of our Illinois PTA State Convention, and we're excited to collaborate with District 41 on this really important resolution that we're bringing forward. So I just wanted to say thank you to Hadley PTA for allowing us the opportunity to support the resolution and adopt that, and then take that forward to Illinois PTA. So huge kudos to Julie Hill for all her work on that resolution that we are now moving forward with. So thank you so much to District 41 for all their efforts are always working forward to keeping our kids safe. On this really important resolution that we're bringing forward. So
Kristen, I believe you finished, but thank you very much. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Okay. We will now move to the in-person public participation. Members of the public who wish to address the board should check in with Mrs. Moak, the board recording secretary. Speakers are asked to maintain respectful decorum and limit comments to 3 minutes or less. Mrs. Moak, is there anyone wishing to make public comment? Thank you.
Hello, I'm Farrell Turner. I have 3 kiddos at Forest Glen and 1 at Hadley, a 6th grader who was just put into quarantine today. The main thing that I wanted to say tonight was that I do hope, and I know this isn't question and answer, but I've been hearing different things about when the memorandum of understanding about no live streaming ends. I don't know if it's just through this year, which is what I had been told, but then other people are saying it's through next year. So I know it's not question and answer, but that is one question that I know that a lot of people have. And also just wanted to clarify that a lot of the people who are unhappy with that are really just asking that you consider for next year to allow live streaming, not concurrent teaching. I know there were some articles, Dr. K, that you had referenced, and the way that I understood those was that they were talking about concurrent teaching rather than live streaming. And I know it's not as easy as flipping on a camera. I understand that. But I do think 2 weeks, which I know is not your choice, but if we're looking at 2 weeks for these kids to be basically just doing homework and being asked to ask questions to somebody they don't know, it's not an education that I expect out of D41. We moved to Glen Ellen. I'm a real estate agent. People move to Glen Ellen all the time for the schools, and it's becoming a very frustrating situation. So I just please consider live streaming. It is, I feel like the quarantine is something that we have no control over. Live streaming is. Secondly, and this is what I actually had wanted to come today until my son was in quarantine. Is that my 30 seconds?
You're good. You're good.
And that is just, I would love, Facebook is awful. I think everybody can agree with that. And I hope that we can find new ways of conversing as parents, kids, teachers, the board, the administration. There's so many people who are middle of the road, who don't want to pick a side because it's having to do with our kids. And hopefully we can come up with, I don't know if it's the coffees coming back or what it is, but there are a lot of people who want to be involved in a positive way. So thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay. All right, thank you. And we will move into the discussion portion of our meeting. And the first item is the purchase of professional development resources. And Katie and Marcy will facilitate this discussion from way back in the cheap seats back there. There you go. Come on up, Marcy.
So this is for professional development for our administrators and our social workers and psychologists for next year. Your report outlines what the need would be and what we would be doing with them throughout the year. Any questions about it?
Caught me. I was just paging through the report. Questions from board members on, and this is for discussion, and it would be brought back on the 3rd. So let me just see if there's questions. Just any questions?
Yeah, you can tell me that this isn't an appropriate ask too. That could be your response, but I'm just wondering if there's and that would be an opportunity for part of it for board members to participate in some way, or if there's any piece of it that would be helpful for us to know, like what that is all about, because it gets talked a lot about at the board table.
Probably not in this type of a professional development. This is more like people for boots on the grounds and what they're doing when they're with the kids, and when they're in those MTSS meetings and things like that. But we could talk with this person to see if we could add a time when they could meet separately with the board to discuss that.
Yeah.
Like we have in the past with other professional development people that have come in, but
I'm not sure it's necessary, but it just sounds interesting. And if you felt like it was a topic that would be good for the board to have a better understanding of, because it is kind of just this black box for me. And I'm familiar with all the terminology, so I think I kind of understand what it means, but it's still kind of a foreign concept. And I know it's critical to what you all do. It's not so critical to what we do, but I want to be supportive, and maybe a better understanding of that would be helpful. But yeah, I would take your guidance on that. If you felt like none of it would be appropriate, I'm fine with that too.
Thank you. Thank you, Jess. Ted, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Guillermo, any questions?
Just a couple of questions. This is nothing new, right? We've done this before, if I recall correctly, or not?
well, this is a new professional development that we are providing for our staff. We have not provided this professional development before.
So it's different from what they received before.
Yes,
Yeah,
so this is different, yes.
And how do we measure the results of the training?
I mean, really, we will be looking at how these strategies get implemented in the schools and, the success that we will see with students.
Thank you, Marcy.
Thank you, Guillermo. Julie,
I don't have anything. Thanks.
Jason, any questions?
No questions. Thanks, Marcy.
I don't know if our student board members would have had access to this, so I don't believe they're in a position to ask a question. Do you know what this topic is about? Okay. And Marcy, could you just sort of briefly just explain what this professional development aims to do, what the objective of it, and what MTSS is? Can you do that briefly? All right, maybe
Sure, Bob.
or maybe Katie can.
Well,
For the
so
benefit of our-
MTSS is it's a process that we go through to provide support for students that might need support if they're struggling in different classes like reading or math. And we look at how kids are put into different interventions during that MTSS process. And it could also be for behavior as well. And then we provide those supports for the kids. And so this professional development is how we run our MTSS process, and then also what type of supports we provide for students, especially for social emotional supports. So maybe some kids that might have some issues with some behaviors or trauma or stress or things like that. That's what this person is going to come in and do. Her name's Allie Hearn, and she's a trained clinical social worker that will come in and help our staff to learn some more strategies to be able to provide this different techniques with kids.
Thank you, Marcia. You did that
And
very
I
well.
think what you might be thinking of is with the work done with Joyce Sutters
Yeah,
a couple years ago or something. Because it could overlap on that or take that.
I was
to the next episode.
looking through my notes.
Yeah.
but too many notes to find.
No, there's a lot.
Thanks.
Okay, Marcy, thank you. Katie, anything else, board? On that? All right, thank you, Marcy. All right, the second item, I guess you could have stayed there if you wanted to, Marcy. Wait, I don't know, is the unused,
He can talk about the next one.
okay. Eric, you're up. Unused vacation time for 12-month staff.
I'm happy to talk about it, but I don't know if you guys can hear me. Can you hear me?
Here we go. Hold on, Eric. We're not, Marcy, you may have to. We're not hearing Eric very well. If you can figure it out, Eric, we'll get you back in, but I've asked Marcy to step up to the mic again.
So this is for unused vacation for 12-month staff. Due to the pandemic, many staff members have not been able to use their vacation and have had to cancel vacations because of different transitions that we've had to make throughout the year for returning to hybrid or in-person. And so there's a number of staff members that still have a number of days. So we are recommending that we provide some sort of way for them to either be compensated or to roll over their vacation time, or they could still use their vacation time. So we're recommending up to 50% of their vacation time could be cashed in, or they could roll over their vacation time, but has to be used next year, or they could use their time.
Okay, okay. Eric, do you want to try to add anything to this?
So there is a 6% cap that is a part of this because we cannot go over 6% earnings from the previous year for any staff member. In the event that they were to retire, that would cause a penalty to the district. So we will look at that for every staff member to make sure that we do not get ourselves into a position where a penalty could potentially be incurred by the district.
Okay, very good. Eric, I'll give you one last shot to see if you can voice anything.
I could try, but Marcy nailed it. She described it really well.
We can hear you now, by the way,
Oh,
Eric. in case you
Great.
didn't
Yeah,
know.
I would just add one thing. The pension thing is something that we watch all the time, but that would be something that my department will watch very closely because penalties are no good, and we'll keep an eye on those.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Board, let me see if there's any questions for Marcy and or Eric. Julie? Okay, very good. Yeah, Guillermo? Okay, Ted?
No questions.
Jess?
I just want to thank the staff who has really had to step up to meet the demands of this year. And I know it's never easy to cancel your vacations, and that's time that you probably could have really used a recharge and you didn't get it, and you gave 110% to the district. So I just want to say thank you. I happen to be married to a school administrator in a different district, and I know very well that he has tried to take a few vacation days and they've never come to fruition this entire year. So I would just want to say thank you for that effort. And I see it and appreciate it.
Thank you. Jason?
Yeah, well said, Jessica. I have no questions, but yes, a lot of people gave up a lot of time to get this district, be able to reopen and, several different times. So it's the right thing to do, but people gave up so many vacation days to help the district out. So.
Yes. Thank you, Jason. I'm going to echo what you've just heard and point out that we are talking about really dedicated people working for us who didn't just miss out on the opportunity, were unable to use a day here and a day here of vacation, but we're talking sizable amounts. We're talking a number of days, if not all the possible days that could have been taken, which means you were working 24/7 on this and never really left the district without your talent. So thank you for that. And I'm glad we have a recommendation to make some small effort to establish our appreciation for that effort. So thank you.
So this is for discussion tonight too. We will bring it back
Yep.
at the next board meeting for
That is
action.
correct. Thank you. Okay. All right, we're going to then move to our action items and the consent agenda. Are there any items board members would like to be removed from the consent agenda to be considered separately?
I think you probably should pull a personnel report and just vote on it separately.
Why would you want to do that? No, I think not.
We always have that. We've always addressed it separately.
No. There's another way. Would you like to do that, Jason?
I would.
Okay. Jason's asked to just pull the personnel report and to address it separately. So with that amendment, we will then, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes employment recommendations, resignations, administration, compensation, and non-union exempt compensation, the March financial reports, and the open and closed meeting minutes of March 15, March 15th, 2021, April 12th, 2021, as presented. Yes. Oh, that's because they're connected. I'm sorry. Yes.
Motion to what Nancy said.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Moak. Second. Yeah. All right, yes, roll call.
Butterworth,
Yes.
Mr. Esty,
Yes.
Mrs. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Guzman.
Yes.
Mr. Rolla,
Yes.
Dr. Bruno,
Yes. All right, so we have standing alone is the personnel report, which is connected to administration, compensation, and non-union exempt compensation. Jason, do you want to explain why you asked to pull it up?
can we get a motion?
Yeah, motion to approve the personnel report.
Motion to approve the personnel report.
I'll second that.
We have a second now.
I think we've
Discussion.
always just addressed the administrative raises separately, and I just think it's that important that we continue to do so. I think they're well deserved. Our administration worked their tails off this year, as did, all of our staff members. And so, but I just wanted to pull what we've typically done instead of separate things. That's all.
Okay, and I would invite other board members, any comment, discussion on the recommendation?
I don't have anything further to add.
Nothing further to add? No?
I would echo Jason's comments.
Very good, Julie?
Ditto. Yeah.
Yes, ditto. Guillermo?
Same. Second.
And I will also. It was, it's a very, very difficult year, and it's important to invest in top talent and make this a really important place for people to want to work. So to do this adjustment, as we do annually every year, it's standard, but particularly this year, there's great support for supporting it. So thank you. Okay, then roll call, Mrs. Moak.
Mr. Esty,
Yes.
Mr. Guzman.
Yes.
Mr. Rolla,
Yes.
Butterworth,
Yes.
Mrs. Hill,
Yes.
Dr. Bruno,
Yes. All right, we've got a superintendent recommendation, and it has to do with the transportation contract extensions. May I have a motion to approve the one-year contract extension with First Student for general bus transportation with an approximate increase of 4.95% and a one-year contract extension with Hopewell for special education out of district transportation with an approximate increase of 3% as outlined in the board report.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Very good. And roll call, Mrs. Moak.
Mrs. Hill,
Yes.
Mrs. Butterworth,
Yes.
Mr. Rolla,
Yes.
Mr. Guzman.
Yes.
Mr. Esty,
Yes.
Dr. Bruno,
Yes, thank you. Next item up is the other or board governance learning together. I don't believe we have any items on the agenda. We will at the next workshop meeting, unless,
I just wanted to ask, I know we mentioned Mark Van Clay, and it's with him that we did the strategic governance training. And I'm sure when we reorganize as a new board with our two new members, we'll want to discuss professional development, but I just kind of wanted to plant the seed that I think it would be worthwhile for us to go through strategic governance training again, especially since it will hopefully come soon, closely paired with when our long-range plan is coming. And I think we want to govern to the plan. And so that it would be good to have that training, that foundation repeated for us.
Right, and Mark did say he can either come do kind of an overview catch-up, or also Marcy and I were talking with Svetlana from HumanX, and there's something that she can come in and do too. So we're on it, and we can give, when the board reorganizes, an update and talk through options.
very good. We then have upcoming meetings. May 3rd, with a special board reorganization meeting. And then May 10th, which would be the new board orientation meeting. And then May 24th would be a regular board meeting. Are there any items board members wish to present for consideration for a future agenda? Very good. The board then has a need to adjourn to closed session. May I have a motion to adjourn to closed session to confidentially discuss section 2C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee to determine its validity. Section 2C10, the placement of individual students in special education programs and other matters relating to individual students. And then 2C11 litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the school board has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the school board finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting.
Before we go, we are only need to, that is my error. I did not.
Okay, so just a correction, it is on section 2C10, the placement of individual students in special education programs and other matters relating to individual students that we will go into, we will adjourn to closed session.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Nancy. With that,
Motion.
very good.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, roll call, Mrs. Monk.
Yes.
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 Yes, the board will not be taking any action after the closed session. Good night.